If you're just starting out in sales, I can imagine how daunting it might be for you. Because when I first started out in sales, it was tough. I was so afraid to talk to the person, asking them money for my service. Is my service even worth that much? A lot of questions came into my mind. But after watching this video, it should help you out. After using certain techniques from this video, I'm sure you're going to be performing better when you're pitching your service to your client. We're going to look at some sales techniques and you're going to implement these sales techniques. If you do, you're going to get value out of it and expect the client to close the deal much more faster. So the first sales technique that we're going to look at is setting expectations. So I'm going to give you an example on this one. Let's say you're a real estate agent and a client calls you up, you're just showing houses to your client and they keep on saying one house after another house after another house. But you haven't spoken about anything. They don't know what to expect or how this process is going to work like. They are just first time home buyers probably, and then they're just looking at you to explain. But after showing them 10 houses, suddenly you tell them something and they're like, whoa, we didn't expect it would be like this. It would take them by surprise and it would be awkward for you to also tell them after showing them certain houses, right? So at the starting of the call itself, at the starting of the interaction itself, you got to set expectations between you and client so that the client knows what to expect out of this relationship, or knows what to expect out of you. So in your case, selling e-commerce services to these business owners, set the expectations that it's going to be around this much, it's going to take these many days, it's going to be like a monthly cost that they're going to bear, which is just $10 to $15 a month, and that's something that's going to get them sales. You gotta show them value in it as well. Which brings me to technique number 2, which is answering questions with questions. Answering a question with a question, that seems so counterintuitive, Minang. But hey, hear me out. Let's say you approach the client, you're talking and etc. And the client asks you a question saying, how much time does this process going to take? And you're going to answer saying 2 weeks. And the client in his mind thinks, oh, 2 weeks? That's a bit of long time. I want to get it done within 4 days. Okay, Minam, thank you so much. And then they just leave. Now what happens here is that you don't know where this question is coming from. If you directly answer 2 weeks, it's going to hamper your pitch. It's going to hamper your deal completely. First thing you want to know is, where is this question coming from, you know? Let's say if his tentative date was to get it done within 3 or 4 days and you said 2 weeks, then what happens is you lose the sale. So you got to ask him, how much time do you require to get it done or something like that. And then when the client says 4 days or 3 days and etc., with that you can counter saying, okay, we usually take 2 weeks to design a service, but we can do it in 4 days as well. Since you're doing it in a such faster base, we're going to have you charge accordingly. You see what happened here? You can charge accordingly much higher rates if the client is in need of faster service. That's what it is. The client can choose to go with the regular one, of course, but since he wants it done within 4 days, you of course can do it in 4 days and you can charge higher. Plus secure the deal as well, because otherwise you're just losing the deal by answering just 2 weeks. So you gotta get to know where this question is coming from. Because they have a requirement to get it done within 3 days. Maybe he heard quotes from somebody else who said they're gonna get it done within 4 days. So you gotta understand the intention behind the question, and that's why we call it answering the question with a question. You can ask them any kind of question for this matter, like, okay, is there any specific date in mind you want to get it done with, etc, etc. Which brings me to sales technique number 3, which is challenge them. Yes, challenging them, because they may throw an objection at you telling that the way I do business is already working, my clients are already coming, my business is running fine. But when you challenge them by saying, hey, I understand what you're doing is working. Yes, it's working great for you, I can already see that. But don't you think you can do it better, in a much faster way, in a much scalable manner, in a much cheaper manner? Rather than you setting up a store somewhere else, You can just set it up online and let the orders come from everywhere. Don't you think that's the logical next step and is a much better step for your business? You see what happened? I challenged their frame, I challenged them. This will lead to the customer thinking. Another way of challenging a customer is a very nice example. One objection that comes from customers is like, okay, we can build this store by ourselves because you said it's super easy, right? So you can challenge them by asking them questions saying, have you ever built an e-commerce store before? And their obvious answer is no, but if they answer it yes, you can ask them how long did it take them to build it, why aren't they properly using it, what's the need for a new e-commerce store or a service. Question them, and they might be like, okay, that was too technical, I couldn't maintain, the freelancer went away, the plugins were costing too much, I wasn't getting sales. They might give you a lot of reasons by the way, and you can tackle those reasons easily. What if by saying something like, okay, technicalities and etc aside, what if you found an easy way, a way of maintaining a website for like just 5 minutes every single day? That's all. Yes, all you need to spend is 5 minutes, and you don't need to spend hundreds of dollars every month. All you need to spend is just $10 flat every month. And your freelancer won't run away. You have a VetrinaLive team to support you when you mail them or when you chat with them, or you can just dial me up and I'll be there with you. How does that sound? And since you've built an e-commerce store such complicated, I'm gonna make it super simple for you. As simple as that. Wouldn't it make a difference for your business? Wouldn't it remove the headache out of you? Or wouldn't it just help you out, make things faster and scale things faster? Because you, of course, realize the importance of an e-commerce store. That's why you got it done in the first place. And that's why you're thinking you can do it too. But don't you think you can focus on the business and I can just do it within much 4 or 5 days, as fast as that? It's gonna get them thinking, because they cannot, of course, do it in 4 or 5 days. They have to learn a lot of things, they have to explore a lot of things, and they have to do a lot of manual work up by photography, uploading products, etc. And that's where you can sell your service. The next technique that we are going to look at is telling stories. Now, everyone wants to hear stories. We all love stories. Humans are driven by stories. So you can tell them stories of how a business in their niche went in the e-commerce way and they've increased their orders and sales. The best example is the Viola 1905 case study that's published on our website. Viola is a restaurant. They had to online and it was all a mess for them to figure out because they were getting orders from everywhere else. They used VetrinaLive. They started getting a streamlined way of getting orders. They increased their order value, they increased their average order size, and that led to them grow their business by X percentage. So I believe that your business can also be benefited from this if you follow the step-by-step framework, and you can grow their business just like everyone because it's tried and tested. Once you tell them a story of a previous client or a client that you know or a story that you know of, then they're going to hear much more likely. Rather than saying, okay, sales, rather than saying only the features, rather than saying you're going to do it on WhatsApp, tell them a story of how a business truly transformed from being there, being the old way, to being the new way. And they're going to hear you much better. They're going to be moved and they're going to be driven by that story. Yes, this is Viola's website. This is how it looks like now. It's live. It's a true story. So that you can read by going to the VetrinaLive website. The link would be down below. Basically, yes, telling stories. So here are the sales techniques for a refresher. First one is setting expectations right. Technique 2 is answering questions with a question. Basically, you want to know the intention of where the question is coming from, or else you're going to lose the client. The third tip is challenging them by asking them questions. The fourth tip is telling stories, being a good storyteller. Follow these tips and I'm sure you're going to go close sales much faster, and you're going to close more sales when you talk to more clients. Were these tips helpful? Tell us down below.